on. My friends, oh, I turned on the heating. That is a no-no, my friends. You know why? I'll tell you why. Oh, because this car is now, Mr. Frank has got a tear in his exhaust. And as a result, it is super loud. Now, I have this little stupid thing. It's a little microphone. And hello. I don't know. I don't think it's working because I tried it in the bathroom and does it sound? Look at this again. The heating's on, but the heating is off. I don't know. I'm having some. I don't want to think this is a conspiracy, but I have literally the biggest problems with technology. So I've got this. I bought this little mic. I have a bulkier one for my other program, but the thing is that this one, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is there a difference? I don't know. I don't think there is. I mean, my ears did not hear it. So I'm going to put it in here just in case, because this truck is so loud. Frankie needs a whole new exhaust. The whole thing is ripped. In fact, the whole thing, if I had long enough arms, I'd be able to show you that the exhaust is in the back here. Part of the exhaust literally came off. And okay. And it's so loud that I thought, okay, I'm going to need there's two of these. I'm going to need the microphone. So then I went to test it out. I got my lip gloss on. I went to test it out in the bathroom to see if, in fact, it works. Because I thought when I was reviewing the videos in the past, because I've been editing, what I do is, as I've told you before, I record as I drive. Whenever I go out, I have one regular day that I 100% do record, because I go out. Like today is my regular scheduled day when I go out and meet with you guys, and I go out into the world and I have time to record. Otherwise, it's as it comes. I go for walks every day as usual, but I do not record with every single walk because, well, first of all, the weather doesn't permit. That's the first thing. The second thing is I don't always have something to say, although that probably is less true. But sometimes I just haven't got my thoughts put together, and it's nice for me just to go out and think about things without having to spill things out and let them tumble out and have them recorded, because sometimes a couple of drafts is better before the final draft. Not always, I will admit, but sometimes. So when I was reviewing some of my latest edits, I was reviewing them and it was working. It was sounding a little crackly, and I think I mentioned that in another video. And oh my gosh, did I say good morning? I'm sorry if I didn't say good morning. I'm already in a tizzy in my head. And while I was in the washroom, I wanted to test it out to see if it sounds different with the mic on and with the mic off. And it sounded exactly the same. So I am uncertain if this actually is recording and if I did it right. It just said to plug it in and make these two sync, which they did. They have the blue light. That's all the instructions that there were. So I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. If any of you have seen this mic and know which mic it is, I would appreciate some help, but I'll have to figure it out otherwise on my own. as I'm putting on my lip gloss, it brings me to what I was thinking about bringing up with you all, and that is basically, I put on lip gloss and I think that it accentuates and makes me look a little bit better. It gives me a lift in terms of, like, I feel that I look a little bit better. You know, I have my years. I'm not that old, but I am certainly not as young as I used to be. Aren't we all, right? But then I thought to myself, that really just lines up perfectly with what I wanted to talk to you about with regards to what we think is right and wrong. And I don't mean the natural laws of things, because there are certain things that I would argue most, if not the majority, of humans on Earth will agree on that they are just true. You know, hurting someone or deleting someone from this planet, I would argue most people would agree that it is wrong. However, there are exceptions, as we all know. And those exceptions would then fall under something else that I would classify as, again, not really thinking for ourselves. And I guess the question I have for you all today is, do you or do you not think that you are an individual thinker? You know, just think about it. You, yourself, when you think about how you think, do you think that all the thoughts that you have are yours? You know, you came up with them, you made a decision, and you feel that that decision was all on you, you decided it. Or, and I've been thinking about this as of late, or are you more in thinking, I mean, that's an oxymoron, but are you more in line with the understanding? Because I'm more in line, I think, with this kind of understanding, that we really don't think on our own. I would almost argue that, and almost, because I haven't done a full-on year-long study and study of it, but I would lean to the belief and understanding that we are being led with our decisions, being manipulated with every decision we make, whether or not it's a completely insignificant decision, like whether or not you are going to go to the mailbox like I am right now, or whether or not you're not going to go to the mailbox. And I would argue that even those decisions, if you look back far enough, or people that would study this could probably work out whether or not you would stop at the mailbox, whether you would make that decision or whether you would not make that decision at that time. Give me just a second. I'm just going to go drop off some mail, because I got some mail for people, and then I'm going to go see what's in the mail. Let's see if there's anything in there. There's these two dogs that live right by the mailbox, and one of them came to greet me, and she's like not a bulldog, or a boxer, maybe? Yeah, boxer. She's really cute. Like, she's brown and black. I think her name is Bella or something like that. I can't remember. She's like a name that is very popular. Anyway, so as I was saying, I am starting to realize, I think, that we are not free thinkers. And I would argue that most people that think we are free thinkers, I think haven't really thought about it deeply enough. Okay. What do I mean by that? I don't think we're free thinkers. And that's me included. Whenever I'm having a discussion with y'all, I'm 99% of the time including myself in the problem, because I am, just like you, part of the problem. I am my worst enemy. I am my biggest hurdle, as we all are. And I think that there's a really great saying. I'm digressing here, and I'm going through all sorts of whirlywinds all the way around. But when you point at someone, this for some reason stuck in my head. When you point at someone, you need to look at the three fingers pointing back at you. Just like ears, you have more ears than you have a mouth. We all need to start listening better, me included, and we need to all start talking less. And I would say that actually kind of rolls into my point, because we're so busy talking that we never really stop to think about things thoughtfully, in quiet, in peace. We are driven by our ego, and the powers that be know this. They know that we are ego driven, and they ride that ego all the way to the bank, all the way to the power structure. They count on our ego to be doing this, because if most of us, I mean, it would be impossible for all of us to do it, but if most of us, or even a large part of us, started to put our ego away, and we all started to hear each other better and reflect more, I think we would all come to the same conclusion, and that is that we don't have our own thinking. We have cherry pickings of things that we've been given. For example, culture. Culture, in large part, is the very large version, or one of the largest versions, I would almost argue, of division. Think about it. All of us have 2 legs and 2 arms, unless something awful has occurred or something hasn't occurred properly. So most of us have 2 legs, 2 arms. Most of us have 1 mouth and 2 ears. If everything goes right, it doesn't matter what continent you are born in, what language you speak, what color your skin is. We look the same outside of slightly different shades and slightly different formations of each individual body part, let's say. Because, Asian people have more slant eye, white people have more round eye, African people or people from that continent have wider noses, people from the Anglo-Saxon areas have more thin noses and thin feet, whereas many Western Europeans have wider feet. You get the picture, right? Like, people from India have longer limbs. They have like beautiful long arms. We all have traits based on where we were born geographically. But no matter where we were born, we all have the same amount of hearts, livers, kidneys, arms, fingers, toes, etc. said in one of my other videos, weather might have a huge part of it, okay, a huge part of it. But culture is literally made up by someone in history who we've never met, never spoken to, and will never be able to, what would be the word? Never will be able to ask why we got, for example, in the Portuguese culture, we were just talking about this with my husband and my mom. If a spouse dies, and it was primarily, but if a husband dies in a relationship, culturally, the woman wears black. The woman wears black from the funeral on, for the most part, traditionally. Things have changed because culture is changing, and even though right now America and Canada and England are starting to have a visible culture of non-culture, we're literally having no culture at all, like no culture whatsoever. That is a culture. It's a destructive forcing culture because you're believing in nothing, and everything is allowed and nothing is really reprimanded. That's the opposite of what I'm talking about. But what my question is why is it that in Portugal, and I think in Italy as well, and those countries, it's black. The color is black. And if you were to say, be an Indian and move to Portugal, say 50 years ago, and you wore white, say, to your, I believe it's white that the Indians, from India, I think they wear white to funerals. Now, if you wore white to a funeral, oh my Jesus, I'm pretty sure you would be burned just by people's stares. And yet, the same exact thing happened. A spouse died, or a family member died. And if you're kind of excuse me, if you're kind of getting where I'm going with this, is it's not significant what color you are choosing to wear when a loved one dies, in my humblest opinion. If you're looking at it from a perspective of pretending there was no cultures, like if you came from a place that you didn't understand these nuances, for example, you're an alien that comes and you don't understand this. What's important, I would think, to every culture, group, subgroup, and so forth, team, what's important in this moment is that someone died. Is it really that important what color they chose to wear after that person died? The main event is that person died, that you're in sorrow, you're in pain, you're in grief. Does it really then make such a significant difference what color you're wearing? I'm getting stuck on the point, and I'm sorry, but that's like one example. What's another example? We were having this discussion about, for example, when someone dies, is there an appropriate time that you should mourn that person? And what I mean by that is, it could look like anything. Like, it could look like, is there a certain amount of time you should wear the black? Is there a certain amount of time that you should not date again? Is there a certain amount of time before you can get remarried? Is there a certain amount of time before you stop crying? Is there a certain amount of time that you are not permitted to really engage in drinking and partying? These are all things that, in my humble opinion, are given to us, set out by someone. This rule, this norm is set out by someone that we've never met, never will meet, and will never be able to ask why. Why did we, when there's a law and there's a reason for the law, ostensibly you understand the reason for the law. But who made that law? Why did it come about? And why does everybody have to follow it? So some people are absolutely appalled if someone's spouse dies and they get together with someone in 6 months to 6 years. And some people aren't appalled by that. Why? Is it an inherent thing that each of us individually feels? Or is it more of a structural thing where it's indoctrinated into us? Religion is another example of what I mean by that. Someone dying and it being appropriate or inappropriate to wear a certain color, act a certain way, become involved with someone else. Is that something that is, that's the house that we were going to buy. We haven't done anything else with it. Is it something that we think ourselves without any help, or is it actually something that we've been taught and told that that's how we should feel about it? This is more what I mean. When it comes to religion, would you agree with this thinking? For the most part, from where I sit, most religions, despite the different names, the different looks of the gods, and maybe the different, sacrifices you have to do for the gods, would you or would you not agree with this statement? All religions revolve around a God, whatever his name is, one almighty God, whom wants you to keep him first and foremost, who wants you to put him above yourself, and who wants you to behave a specific way, and you get the X, Y, and Z rules. So all religions are ostensibly around one God, a God that we need to revere and fear. If you kind of look at all religions, you must fear your God because he's more powerful than you. He created all of this. So why then, I ask, why is there so many various religions who also who disagree vehemently with the opposing religion? So if I'm a Catholic, my religious beliefs collide with, say, the Muslim religious beliefs, because they have a certain amount of different, regulations that their God, their boss, has given them. Or the Jewish tradition, or the Buddhist religions, or the Hindu religion. Why are we taking these religions in a way where we don't see the similarities in our religions, and that all of us basically believe in a God, whoever he may be, whatever his name is, and war ultimately is the main other mechanism. So you have to believe that there's someone that we should fear, and someone who is above us, who created us, and so on. And then we're given a certain set of rules to play by on our team. And our team doesn't like the other team. And the other big belief is we must go to even war, because it's two beliefs. It's you believe in a God and you must defend him, all the way up to war. What kind of God do we actually believe in, any of us, where we believe that he would want us to wage war on one another? I would argue that is not logical thinking. I would argue that there absolutely is a God. But I don't think that there is 14 or 2,000 different kinds of hell or heaven you can go to. I don't think we all have factions up in wherever we die. Just given the fact that we all die the same. We stop breathing. Whether we are dying of lead poisoning, or whether we're dying of food poisoning, or whether we're dying of jabber jibber poisoning, or whatever accident on a highway, it doesn't matter. You stop breathing. So you're going to tell me we have different stalls for different religions? No, that's a human thing. And we fall for it, me included. So religions. I want you to think about, if you've ever watched the movie The Matrix, ultimate best fictional documentary in the world by far. And it's up there with 1984 and A Brave New World. It's a classic. And the thing is it tells you so much in this movie that there's just so many references that the whole movie should be made into a Bible, since the Bible is a documentary as well. Morpheus says to Neo, when he's training him in the training program, he's training him how to do Kung Fu, because now Neo has accepted that he's made the choice, and now he's going to accept the choice. Okay, well, guess what? They're fighting Kung Fu, and just like I'm talking about all these little things that we think and believe, Neo believes, and we believe, starting to watch this scene, that Morpheus is training him in battle. But that's not really what he's showing him in this scene. In this scene, he asks him, because he beats him once or twice, and he says, "Why am I beating you?" And Neo is trying to give him the pre-programmed answers. He's trying to use the logic he's been given in the Matrix in order to explain why Morpheus is beating him. Okay? But remember, he's in a program. Each of them are in a program. Each of them are sitting beside each other in a chair, not moving. They're in their minds in a program. And Neo says, "You're stronger than me. You're faster than me." And Morpheus asks, "You think that makes sense, what you're saying, when we're in a program? Do you think we're breathing right now?" Just because he was fighting with him in a hand-to-hand combat, was he breathing also in that program? No, he was breathing on the chair. He had to start understanding what Morpheus was doing was not having a kung fu fight with him. He was trying to show him that everything that he thought he knew about life was just simply not true. It was a program. It was given to him, scripted to him for him to repeat and to draw on when he wanted to resolve a problem. But in fact, he was not fighting with Morpheus physically. He wasn't jumping up and down on the walls and going at the speed of light. He wasn't doing any of that. He was sitting, hooked up to his head on a chair. Then the next scene is, okay, if you don't understand, if you still don't understand that your thinking isn't yours, that you're still stuck in the Matrix, like all of us, he took him to another program, and he went from one program to another program without moving his real body. And then he was on top of a building, and he had to jump across to another building. And again, it was not about jumping across to the other building. It was about losing it was freeing, not losing and shaking off what the Matrix has indoctrinated him with. But it was more so of jumping off, like a metaphoric jumping off of everything, jumping off, and everything that you believed was not true. It was not true, because the Matrix is very calculated because it needs to know if you're going to stop at the mailbox or not. It's a mathematical equation. When you participate in the math problem and you are trained to know this formula equals this, this formula equals this, the machine, the matrix, the people that own us know that this formula, as long as you're on top of the formula, this is the answer. And you will choose what the answer is, because the answer is predetermined. Now, I don't know if you guys are following me with this, because it seems very convoluted when I'm thinking about how I'm explaining it. But what I am saying is that I remember being on 2 occasions feeling jarred about someone moving on after a spouse had died. And it wasn't until I thought about why it was bothering me. Why would it bother me? It's not me doing it. I don't have to, I don't have to answer for that decision. That's not my decision. And I started realizing it bothered me because it was faux pas. It was taboo. Or taboo is another, great, taboo. That's a really good, a bird. Taboo is another great example. What are taboos? Taboos are limits that have been put on by culture. Because it's taboo, say, for a Muslim woman to show her legs, to show her cleavage. It's not taboo to do it in America. In fact, if you want your chucha coming out, like me and my neighbor were just talking, she had a neighbor that would come over with no underpants, just shorts, and this woman had no care in the world that her chicha was coming out. No problem. That would never happen in a Muslim society. Never. Like, that woman would probably be stoned. Okay. They're horrible examples because one is repressed and one is ridiculous. One is just absolutely has no self-respect. But is there another way? Is there a way where human beings do not have to be put in a structural matrix or in a slave environment? Because if you are kind of agreeing with me at all, you would also agree that we are not trusted to think on our own. That's my kind of assessment of thinking about this. Because if we were trusted to make decisions that were good for the greater good of us and ourselves, well, we wouldn't be so controlled. Notwithstanding that we are trained to be so controlled, because if we make our own decisions, the people that own us, the people that own the walls, that own the cages, that own the feeders, that own the roofs, because we are living in a matrix. If you don't believe me, that's totally fine. We can move on. We don't have to get stuck on that point. But we are owned. We're literally like rats in a laboratory, and when the scientists come into laboratory every morning, they turn on the lights and they either feed us or they don't feed us. Like, I want to make this point to you because if you don't believe that's true, then please explain to me why we are having wars that we do not agree with. I would agree, or I would argue, not agree because I agree with this, but I would argue that 90% of the population does not agree with the wars that are occurring in Ukraine, the wars that ever occurred in the past, the war that is being waged in the Middle East, the wars that are going on in the family unit, in our cultures. Nobody agrees to it. And yet, even if 98% of the population don't agree with it, we carry on. Even though Joe Biden was not the most popular president chosen ever in history. We all know this. This doesn't need to be proven. It is proven. There is enough documentation to prove it, but the mainstream media will lie until they die because it is in their best interest to keep the story going, because guess what? We have owners, and they need us to believe and make decisions in the direction, at least some of us, that they need. So even that all of us are deciding we don't want this war, we don't want to send any more money to Ukraine, like what's happening with Elon Musk supposedly, firing these people and supposedly finding all this money. Listen, there's a story there too. And again, they're setting something up. When the narrative is so strong, you have to ask why. Why now? As Melissa from Cutting Through the Matrix says, why now? This has been going on since the inception of our first government, which was religion. Religion was our first government, our first rulers, our first bosses, and we used to abide by that government. We used to give our taxes to them. We had to follow the rules. If we didn't do what they said, we were ostracized. Some people were as far as killed over it. People would get hung. Remember the witch hunt trials? How many people had got stoned to death? How many people got burned alive? Come on. Okay? They had their own rules. They had their own people that enforced the rules. They had their own punishments. They had their own financial systems. Why were all the higher ups, the higher priests, the pastors, and what's the Jewish one? Rabbis, they were all in power. They were the ones that were the first ones to read. They passed information from one generation to the next. Okay? And I am telling you that if you think about it very, very, very slowly, think about every decision you've made. Fashion. 1980s fashion. Let's look at that. Okay? 1970s fashion. Let's look at that. 1950s fashion. Let's take a look at that. Is there a pattern? Is there a pattern? 100%. If I look up any of those eras, which I'll put them up on the screen, you will see an absolute pattern. Why? Is it because all the villages got together and decided, oh, this year we're going to go with long skirts. Next year we're going, or this season, let's just say this season, because styles last a few years, and especially in the past, they lasted anywhere, I guess, from like 4 to 8, 10 years, and then they kind of mashed into each other and evolved naturally. Of course, it has to look natural, people. It can't just be like, oh, today we have short skirts. Tomorrow we have, obviously we would know it's not natural, but we are constantly being sold that these things are progressive. I argue they are not progressive. They are very much planned and orchestrated. And all the people that are the first ones in, the people that are the first ones in to do the cool thing. There was the people that were the first rebels that went and got tattoos, and then slowly after, shortly after, everybody was demoralized and so appalled. Now everybody's tattooed all the way up to their freaking eyeballs. Literally, because now it's accepted. And now the 2025 fashion is everything goes. Everything goes. Just everything goes. There's no respect. There's just pure ugliness. Pure ugliness. Like, so many people walk around looking like they just came off the street. There's no respect for yourself, no respect for others. I would argue no respect for others and then no respect for yourself. And I think it's one and the same thing. And that's just my thinking. My thinking is, and the other thing is that people that are older, they tend to hide behind culture. They tend to hide behind religion. But I have yet to meet a person that says, that's older or younger for that matter, I was trained in this kind of culture, but that doesn't mean that that's the right way. There's 4,500 other ways of doing X or Y or B. And I feel that if we all understood that we are progressing to an end, we are progressing to a destination that is not of our choosing. I would argue it is not of our choosing. It is a directed direction. I don't know if that was even a proper sentence. In a way where someone who benefits from us going in that direction wants us to be. Whether or not you see it that way, I invite you to that discussion. But that was what I kind of started thinking about yesterday and today, and I thought I would try to digest that with you. And I am at my location. It is, oh my God, may I just say, it's absolutely stunning today. I don't see any crisscrosses in the sky. I actually think that we might have a natural sky today until maybe this afternoon when the artists come out. So right now we are sitting at sunny skies, no cloud seeding happening, which is really great because I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Igor. Oh my gosh, that's a good documentary to watch and really understand what's happening. And yeah, it's a beautiful day, and I'm hoping that it's going to be a beautiful all day day. Today, this morning, it was minus 20. As I left home, it was minus 15 or 14. I'm hoping by the time I get home, it'll be like no less than minus 5 with the sun. And that's it. And I'm just really just grateful for life. I'm really grateful that we are still seeing peace as far as worldwide. We have really heated up pockets everywhere, and I do think that if we as each individual person don't wake up and don't start pressing against the narrative that we are led to believe that we want or we need, there's some boogeyman over here, we need to destroy all the people where the boogeyman is because that's how we're going to solve the problem, or there is some resources there that we need so that boogeyman won't let us have that, so therefore we should destroy the people there. And it's getting cray-cray, people. It's just getting cray-cray, and we have to start coming up with solutions. And solutions are not given. Solutions are not given. We have to stop. We have to think about why is there a problem and where can we actively do something. Not to go and fill out a piece of paper and say we've done our piece, like we voted. That is such lazy thinking. Sorry, but that's just not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. Stop voting. Don't vote. Encourage everyone not to vote. Encourage every single person not to vote. Stop participating in a game where they have all the exits, where they guard all the gates, they hold every key, and you think you're getting into a secret nook somewhere. You're getting exactly in the nook that they want you to be. You are in a playpen. You are like a child or a dog that is gated, and you've been given all the toys and all the devices to keep you placated, people. But you are not free. You are in a gated, fenced, secure area where you will not break shit. It's time to recognize that. First and foremost, Once you recognize that, it's kind of downhill from there. I was just talking to my girlfriend, one of the couple that are, I would say me and her, are able to talk about real life, like, oh yeah, we're in a playpen, that kind of thing. And we were talking about that, and she said, it's amazing how when you start actually looking around, the choices that you could start making that are more yours than that of being in the playhouse, secure and tightly monitored. Because we are literally, if you wanted to compare it to like a child, you are literally given these choices. Darling, you have a choice. Would you like red pants? Would you like blue pants? You still only have the choice of pants. If you want to wear a dress or a skirt, that is not on the table because your masters did not allow that to be on the table. It's not because you decided to go into your own area, decide to sew your own item, and decide to wear whatever it is that you sewed, whatever color it may be, whatever style it might be, short, long, or otherwise. I'm sorry, I have to speak in analogies because YouTube I'm like starting to get the rhythm of it, and I just don't want to get a strike. And that's again my cowardice. But on the flip side, my argument about being cowardly and not saying exactly what I want to say is, if I get shut down, I can't come to you and talk to you. And if I can get you to start thinking in a way where we can all individually start, it doesn't matter how messy individualistic thinking is, because it's way more messy, because you might have a completely different idea of what I might have. But if we each respect that is your understanding, and this is why, and this is my understanding, and this is why, and we just can't cross that barrier because there really isn't a need to find one solution, that's okay. But in this case, we really need to start thinking of the solutions that are going to get us out of this train wreck that's about to hit the wall. And let me tell you, if we don't start trying to solve the world problems, we will become and be engulfed and eaten by the world problems. Because there's only so long that we can be living in the capital. I don't know if you've ever watched the Hunger Games, but the people in the capital, because they chose to have a blind eye and not to help resolve the other district's issues, eventually the other district issue problems and plights came to their front door, and they could no longer enjoy the ignorance of blissful ignorance. And this will be the way that it ends. It always is, and it has to. That's just the way that life is. Anyways, I am longer than I should have been. I'm trying to keep things shorter. Not working out today. I didn't really map out my talk, and I find that when I don't really map it out, like when I don't have 1 or 2 or 3 or maximum 4 points, I can't keep it quick. So I apologize for that. But in the meantime, if you're still here, congratulations. You win nothing, but congratulations and thank you. And also, if you did make it this far, please, 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 if you haven't already subscribed, I would really appreciate it. And I would just love to start building our community if we're out there. If we're not, I'll know within 2 years. And if we are, then I'll continue growing, even if it's 1 subscriber a day, 1 subscriber at a time. It doesn't have to be a day. That is still growth. And also, the little thumbs up button, that one, it supposedly helps with the algorithms. It doesn't cost you anything. I didn't even realize that the thumbs up were such an important thing. Now that I'm learning and evolving, I'm realizing that that is how ultimately it makes a successful YouTuber, and that way we can continue doing this exclusively, because trust me, when there is too many things going on in your life to do this, I wasn't able to do it before, honestly, because you do need to plan for all of these videos. You need to plan when you're going to do them. You need to plan for editing. It's really important. So if you wouldn't mind, I am just reminding you, it doesn't cost you anything but a button click. If you're sitting and watching this, please hit that thumbs up And I mean, if you want to hear more of me, there's that bell feature that I also just really learned about. I'm really learning a lot. I'm evolving in, I'm not sure if in the right direction or if in the correct direction, because YouTube is definitely one of the mechanisms they are using against us. But sometimes you have to use a hammer for other functions than for nails. You know, sometimes it's a defense mechanism, and it's unfortunate, but sometimes that does become a requirement. Oh, and then I just got to see if this will, hello, if this works. Anyways, I'm here. I'm going to show you what this looks like. And then I hope you have a beautiful day. Look at how wonderful this is. 52 minutes. That's crazy. That's just crazy. Look at how beautiful that is. It's just gorgeous. Anyways, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Mwah.